That's why I survived, to be able to do those things, to be able to transmit the story of hell and survival and rebirth and living the American dream. It's always much better to be giving than God to be taking. And I had to take to survive another day. So thank God now I'm blessed. I'm able to give.
If you heard what I heard, this podcast shares the powerful stories of Holocaust survivors, told by their grandchildren, the last generation to ever hear Holocaust survivor stories firsthand. So join me as we listen, learn, and remember. Together, we can make sure the world will never forget so that it never happens again. I'm your host, Carolyn Siegel. I'm the founder and executive director of If You Heard What I Heard. We are very honored to be here today with If You Heard What I Heard interviewee and advisor, Emily Kane Miller, and her amazing Bubby, Holocaust survivor, Yetta Kane. Emily is the founder and CEO of Ethos Giving, a social impact consulting firm that works with families and companies committed to making a difference. Emily is the proud mom of 3 young children, an active member of the Jewish community, and truly one of our most engaged members of If You Heard What I Heard. Hopefully you've had a chance to listen to Emily share Bubby's story either on our website, ifyouheardwhatiheard.com, or on our podcast. We're so grateful to be here with you both today.
We're so happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here too. Thank you.
Emily, why was it important for you to share your family's story with If You Heard What I Heard?
Being the grandkid of 2 Holocaust survivors, my Bubby and my Zeta, her husband, David Kane of blessed memory, for as long as I can remember, since I was 8 years old, I've known this is a part of my personal family story. And one of the things that we always learned from our grandparents was that it wasn't ours to keep, it was ours to share. And by sharing it, it blessed the memories of everybody in our family, but it also blesses the communities around us because it teaches lessons of tolerance and lessons that can make the world a better place. So it was a no-brainer when I had the opportunity to share it in a more official capacity with If You Heard What I Heard, to be able to take that opportunity.
And we're so grateful that you chose to share your story with us. It's truly a story of miracles, and I hope that everyone has a chance to listen to it. Bubby, Yetta, I have had a chance to hear your story through Emily and a little bit through you. When you were in the woods with the partisans running from the Nazis, did you ever think about the family that you would have today, that you would be sitting here in Los Angeles with your amazing granddaughter and, as of today, your 11 great-grandchildren?
This is something we lived not by the days, but by the hour. Every hour was a blessing. We survived. We did not think what's going to happen in 2 or 3 days. We thought of that moment to survive, to be alive for another hour or two. I think it was something that was beyond comprehension, beyond any questions. To even go that far was really impossible at that moment. When you're starving and you're hungry and being chased and being mistreated by the Nazis and it was very difficult to think of the future, let alone not 8, 9, 10 and on, but to reach my age. It is Hanukkah coming up, and it's really would say, Nes Gadol Yesh Po, a great miracle is here. And it's not just because of the Maccabees, but it's for me, it is a miracle what I've accomplished with my late husband, to raise a beautiful family and to be able to live the American dream through hard work, through determination, through love of mental thought of humanity, and believing tomorrow would be a good day. It's hard to think that far.
But look at the incredible life that you truly have built. It's amazing, and it's a miracle, and I'm happy that you brought up Hanukkah because it's definitely very timely, for sure. Yeah. Bubby, what was your reaction to watching Emily's interview and hearing her perspective and your story through If You Heard What I Heard?
Well, I'm very, very proud of all my grandchildren, all of them. But I'm very proud of Emily because she lived in San Jose and we lived in Long Beach. But I used to get on the plane and go there every 4 to 6 weeks with 4 or 6 frozen chickens in a bag. And when I ran not to miss the plane, the bag would break and the all dead chickens in plastic bags were on the floor. And somebody would look at me. I was crazy. The crazy dressed up lady in high heel shoes, all in fancy clothes with dead chickens at the airport on the floor.
You can't get kosher chickens in San Jose in the same way. They're not as cheap. You got to get them in LA.
Well, so as a result, being with them and working her to school, her piano lessons, and doing things, it was so special when they went to the Jewish day school, to Yavmet. It was just really another miracle. Living in San Jose, going over 35 years ago, there was very little Judaism there. There was one little kosher butcher. He couldn't survive. He didn't have enough customers. And the Jewish day school really opened up the knowledge, the educational part of Yahadut, of Yiddishkeit. And it was the beginning of the beginning for Emily to explore, to learn, and to thrive through her Jewish heritage. And we believe that we stand on our forebearers, we stand on their shoulders. And Emily was a continuation, to continue the Jewish chain of Yiddishkeit. And Emily was part of it. One of my grandchildren.
It's one thing. I want to just ask you a little bit more about it. It's like, it's, obviously we all feel so grateful to be your grandchildren. We know it brings you joy when we do Shabbat, when we have children in Jewish spaces and all of these things. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about when I told you that I was doing If You Heard What I Heard, and recording a video that was going to go on the internet, that was going to be shared with schools, with teachers, with people, to teach them about the show and to use your story to inspire people to learn more, to be more compassionate, that I wanted to spend my time doing that. How did that make you feel to know that your granddaughter was participating in a program like this specifically?
Specifically, they're not. I don't think there are enough words in the English dictionary for me to explain the things that you are doing for not only for Judaism, but to teach young people we're all God's children, no matter what religion they are, no matter what house of worship they are, to be inclusive, to be compassionate, to be understanding, to understand tomorrow might be somebody picking on me. How do I prevent that to happen to another person? So by teaching love, unity, understanding, compassion, to be good to one another, this is the message you are transmitting to the future generations. Therefore, I'm so proud of you and your siblings that are doing all that work. And the work you do, Emily, is from the depths of your neshama, the depths of your soul, the love, in Jewish we say the pintele'id, the little dot of the Yahadut of Yiddishkeit is in your depths of your soul. It's in your DNA. And this way you're transmitting it for future generations, not just for your children, my great-grandchildren, but future generations. And your children, God willing, and great-grandchildren will be able to do the same. So that's a gift we have to transmit to future generations. So your work is beyond the what I could explain, honestly.
Thank you, Bob.
It's true.
We only say this, Bubby. When you think about our organization, If You Heard What I Heard, and we've been so honored to have you speak on our behalf at several of our events, and everyone always loves hearing from you. We have 40 scheduled interviews on our site. We're soon to add another 15 interviews to our website of all of grandchildren carrying the torch forward, making sure the world never forgets. For you, more broadly, as a Holocaust survivor yourself, to know that this work is being done, that the third generation is carrying it forward, what does that mean to you?
To me personally, it means an accomplishment that part of my late husband and myself were able to transmit to our children, our grandchildren, and of course our great-grandchildren. Love is something that not enough words to explain, to be compassionate about something, to be able to transmit it to other young people. The many Jewish people, adults and children, that know very little about the Holocaust and know very little about our way of life. They're born Jewish, yes. They believe in Jewish causes, they do things, but the depths from the bottom up, they know very little. And unfortunately, there's some Jewish young people that don't know much about the Holocaust. So it's important for Emily and her generation and what she's doing to teach and teach and teach. And the more we teach, the more people will learn, and hopefully we'll make a better world for the future generation.
So you and Zeta went to hundreds of schools. You've spoken to thousands of children in Southern California, all over the country, really. You've connected with people. You're survivors. One of the ways you connected was your accent, your personal experience, that it happened to you. And one of the things that we're trying to do as grandchildren is to say, I know the person that I happened to. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to somebody who I loved, somebody who I smelled, somebody who I could hold and touch, who shared the story with me. So I'm sharing the story with you. What advice would you give to grandchildren who are now meeting with students, meeting with, people who maybe have never met a Jewish person before? What would you recommend that we could say or do or show so that we connect and that we can really pierce people's hearts, that we can show, that we can effectively share the story? Obviously, we can't do it like you did it because we're not you, but we loved you. We love you. So how can we take that love and share it in a way that people can listen and understand, do you think?
The best way you could do it is with the love that I've been talking to you about and sharing, and the love that you share with other people. This is what you could do every single day. Every moment you have a chance to open up their eyes, their hearts, and their soul, to make them be more inclusive with other people. Because after all, this country is a melting pot. People from every corner of the world are here. And we are all God children. We're all created in His image. And we all have the same needs. So to include everybody that you can. And when I speak in schools, I always tell them, remember, you parents or maybe your grandparents were newcomers here. So treat every newcomer that you meet, no matter what language they speak, no matter where they come from, with kindness, with inclusiveness, with compassion. And this is how you could transmit the love and to continue the door by door from generation to generation to teach kindness and compassion. And you're doing everything in your power that you can. And I'm so, so grateful and blessed to have a granddaughter and have grandchildren.
Emily, you've been involved with If You Heard What I Heard from our early days, really, among the first interviews that was done for our organization. And I'm curious to know, we filmed your story about 2 years ago. Since sharing your story with If You Heard What I Heard, has your perspective changed at all on what Bubby went through during the Holocaust?
It's interesting. When I first learned of my Bubby's story, I was basically her age. I learned about my grandparents' Holocaust story really in more detail when I was 8. And you were 7 when the Nazis came to your town.
7.5.
7.5. So I always, for as long as I can remember, when I would think of my Bubby's story and my Zeta's story, I would personify their experiences. And I was preparing for He Heard What I Heard and, brushing up on my Bubby Yetta history and really trying to make sure I had all the dates right. I realized, I was at that point a mother of 2. I had almost 5 and an almost 3-year-old. And it was almost like instantaneous that I realized my experience of the story was through the lens of my great-grandmother, my Bubby's mother, who I never knew, because I was coming at the story through the perspective and experience of a mother with young children. And telling the story in that way has really changed the way that I've engaged with the story and sort of the perspective of the story. One of the things that I would say, we've been so grateful that has changed in our little family is that we welcome the birth of our 3rd child. And I didn't obviously have a third kid because of If You Heard What I Heard, but I would say like so much of the choice to really work hard to have that third baby was because we wanted to continue to grow our line and to make our tree bigger. And so I feel like both personally as a mom and also, in the way that we try to exist as a family, in the way that I try to exist as a leader in our community, I feel like I doubled down, tripled down in wanting to share not just our family story, but enabling all of our generation to share our stories, and also having recipients out in the world in secular society at schools more easily access these stories.
Yeah, it's honestly having you, as Bubby said, with your neshama, with your soul, and how deeply you care about, Yiddishkeit and carrying on Jewish legacy. It is truly such an honor to have you as a part of If You Heard What I Heard and a part of our family. You bring so much joy to our organization and to, everything that you do and contribute to the Jewish community. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. It's really kind of you to say. It's true.
Many of us are not as lucky to have our grandparents here with us today. My own grandparents have been gone for about 20 years. And we're so fortunate to be here with you both and with Bubby in particular. And there are certainly questions that I wish I could ask my own grandparents, particularly as it relates to the rhetoric that we're seeing today and the rising anti-Semitism that we're seeing today. I can tell you just on a personal note, my grandfather always used to say, and the reason that this organization really exists is because he would say to me, you have to pay attention to warning signs, a rise of anti-Semitism being one of them. And it's the job of your generation to make sure the world never forgets. That was so important to him as a Holocaust survivor, that we never forget so that it never happens again. So Bubby, we're seeing so much anti-Semitism today. And when I film these stories, I've filmed 65 stories so far, grandkids of Holocaust survivors. It's very difficult to hear about the warning signs of what led to the Holocaust and what our Holocaust survivor grandparents experienced, and then look at the similarities and acts of anti-Semitism today. And I actually remember seeing you right after October 7th at a gala, and I said to you, I don't know if you remember this, I said, I'm so scared, Bubby, and you said, I'm not scared, and you were so confident and fierce. And so I just want to know what your advice is for all of us today facing this anti-Semitism, which is so scary. How do we stand up to it?
I personally think, from beginning with Abraham, they always try to destroy us. They're gone, we're here. And we're always going to be here because Hashem, God, is with us. And we are Orla Goyim. We were chosen by God not because we're better or special, but because when we were asked, Na'aseh v'nishma, before we were asked what to do, what we wanted from us, and what answer was, we will listen and will do. Meaning, we were ready for every challenge that that God had for us, for the Jewish people. We were always there. And we are not only in the darkest times of history for Jewish people, with the pogroms, with Russia, with the Cossacks, with the revolutions, with expulsion from Spain, and with the Holocaust, and with the seventh. We will always survive. We'll always be here. We just have to be strong, stand and fight with every way we can. And it's always better to fight with speech, with meetings, as much as the Holocaust and what happened today. We have to fight anti-Semitism. I, in my lifetime, never thought that I would live to see a day where my nightmare is being repeated. But in spite of that, we're in a country where we could still, thank God, call the police and they could try to protect us. Unfortunately, sometimes too late. Unfortunately, sometimes the universities did not do the right thing. But we are succeeding.
Carolyn asked you before about, some of these things that you're saying today, and you had mentioned how shocking and upsetting it is that you're seeing things that remind you of some of the things that you saw when you were a girl. How does it make you feel knowing that when you see them today, Israel exists, and when you were born, Israel didn't?
This is why, thank God, today we have Israel. And without Israel, we have nothing. People look at us differently, and we achieved so much. And Israel, we have to support it. It's our strength, it's our backbone, it's our DNA. And Israel will always be here to protect us, even though we might not think of it that way.
As Emily mentioned, it's pretty incredible to think about, that Holocaust survivors, including you, Bubby, had to live through the Holocaust and now are seeing what's happening today. And thank God we have Israel.
A million times.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you brought up before that, the police, at least today, do something. My grandfather used to talk about that a lot too. He would say that, warning sign is if there's anti-Semitism and attacks for our community and the police do nothing, that's a big warning sign.
Yes.
Yeah. Emily, as I mentioned before, we filmed your interview a little over 2 years ago and well before October 7th. And so I'm curious to know, has the importance of keeping your grandmother's story alive changed for you at all since October 7th? Or has your perspective on sharing your story, of keeping her story going, changed?
It's interesting. For me, I would say it hasn't changed at all. It was mission critical 2 years ago. I think it's mission critical now. The only thing that October 7th did was really validate my perspective all along, that this was something that was so important to do. So I think to the extent that anybody around me thought that I was overreacting or too focused on this, I have a better argument now. But my personal fire and desire to do this work is the same as it ever was.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think as 3Gs, we, for years have been saying, never forget, we can never forget, we can never forget. We've been standing up, we've been like the canary in the coal mine. But said that like Jews are the canary in the coal mine, but really I think 3Gs, if you look more closely at that, have been standing up for years with anti-Semitism is kicking up. We got to pay attention. I remember in 2021, during the Israeli-Palestinian conflict then, just a rise in anti-Semitism, this tidal wave of anti-Semitism happening. And a friend asked me, is this what happened before the Holocaust? And I was like, yeah, I've filmed 40 of these stories so far. And yes, and we need to pay attention and we need to take it seriously. So I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, and I can relate to it on so many levels. So, Bubby, Israel was not yet a state when you were a child and survived the Holocaust. What does Israel and having Israel mean to you today, particularly since October 7th?
Well, I remember being in the displaced persons camp in Germany after the war. I was going to go to Israel. I was in a kibbutz, Noach HaLetzim Yochad. It was not a religious kibbutz.
Like a kibbutz in Germany.
Yes.
Like a displaced persons camp kibbutz.
Yeah. Right, like preparing you to make Aliyah to Israel.
Yes, and I was going to go to Israel. And my parents, we were talking in the camps that the British are leaving. They have no soldiers. They have no blah, blah, nothing to fight with. But people always said, Hashem is always going to be with us. God is going to be with us. We survived the Nazis because even though they were just a little dot in the map, but Hashem was always with them. Miracles were happening every single day in order for them to survive. So I think for us to believe that tomorrow will be a better day, as we say the Modeh every morning, the prayer, thanking God for restoring our health and our neshama and to be able to function. Israel, we have to say the Modeh every day to thank God that we have Israel, that they're able to protect themselves and protect all the people from all over the world, because we have a place to go to. We didn't have a place to go to before. In Poland, they would tell us, go back to Israel.
Wow.
There were over 1,000 years that Jewish people lived in Poland. They helped build the industry, the art, the theater, the everything. Poland, before the war, was a rich country, was like little United States. It was built by the Jews, the Jewish brain. But yet today they say in Polish, burn all the Jews. There are no Jews there, hardly any. But we're still doing them harm. So as a result, we have to be bayakat, we have to be united, we have to be strong, we have to support it. And nothing is ever perfect anyplace else. But no matter with all the imperfections Israel has, we have to love it and support it and take the good and forget the bad.
I saw this amazing picture, but I think I sent it to you. I don't remember what month it was. Maybe it was November, right after October 7th.
Which picture?
There was a photo. We'll find it after this, and maybe we can share it on the liner notes for this. There was a photo of, I think it was 3 survivors who now live in Israel. They made Aliyah after the Shoah. And their 3 grandchildren who were in the IDF. And as hard as I can even imagine, as hard as it must have been for those survivors to see what was happening on October 7th and that there was, a pogrom being brought on the Jewish people, the fact that they had granddaughters who put on uniforms and grandsons who put on uniforms and carried weapons and went to protect their families and didn't do it in the dark of night, but did it in the light of day. Like, what a miracle.
It is a miracle. It is a miracle. And I think the Jewish people, for what we went through, from all through generations, it is a miracle we're here. All the ones to destroy us are gone. We're here. Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai. Absolutely.
So, Bubby, with that, for our organization, it's really important that we live up to the promise to Holocaust survivors everywhere to make sure the world will never forget. But for you, what can we do as the grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, as a Jewish community? What is the promise for you that we can uphold?
The promise is to continue the work that we left to be carried through your generation for future generations to the young people in schools, in universities, whenever you could reach them. It's so important to let them go to Israel, birthright, to involve them in camps, Jewish camps, and so on. This is how they grow to understand and to love and to respect and to be proud that we have Israel. Absolutely. And to be kissing the ground when they go to Israel and get off the plane.
Absolutely. Emily, for you, what's important as a 3G, as a proud 3G, to see for our community and also from our society, coming from this legacy of Holocaust survival and then seeing the anti-Semitism that we're seeing today? Like, what's meaningful for you in that? And what's important for all of us to take away as 3Gs and as a community?
I think you had sort of shared the 3G being not the only, but certainly a very important presence in the canary and the coal mine part of our community. And I would say the thing that has been so notable post 10/7 and that I find so much heart in is just how much bigger the tent is now. It's crowded. It's beautiful. There are so many more events, people wanting to do Shabbat, people wanting to get together, people wanting to go to Israel, people wanting to send their kids to Jewish summer camp. I mean, we are living in Los Angeles for a lot of reasons, but mainly because we want to raise our kids in a really dynamic, beautiful Jewish city. And that was true before. And now what's so incredible to see is like our day school is busting at the seams. We had, unfortunately couldn't fit everybody who wanted to come. And everything just feels like there's so much power and joy and desire to belong. And so my hope for our community, my goal for the community, what I want to spend my, little work that I can do trying to make a difference is just to open the spaces even more, because people are trying to get in the door. People are trying to figure out ways to engage and be involved. And I hope this lasts for a generation, but history shows these moments ebb and flow. And so while we have this energy, while we have people's attention, while our hearts are open, let's make it as sticky as possible. Let's bring people in as deeply as possible and really imprint it, not just in the ways that are easy, but in the ways that are hard, and to say, you're in now. Here's the water. Help us carry it. Help us do these stories. And yes, it's a unique opportunity as a 3G to tell our grandparents' stories, but these are all of our stories. Every single Jew is a person who inherits the stories of our entire tradition. We were all slaves in Egypt. It doesn't matter that I don't know exactly who the Egyptian slave was that I come from. I am that person. And so are you. And so hoping that the mantle that we all carry becomes the mantle that we all carry. And if that can be true, it will make all of us better off.
Yeah, it's really actually been interesting with If You Heard What I Heard, because our community is made up mostly of 3Gs. But there are so many who are part of our community who are not 3Gs, that are Jewish, that feel such a connection to our work for that exact reason, that this happened to my people, and therefore it's on me to make sure it never happens again. And I really commend those members of our organization who feel that way and who are a part of our work and help build our organization, because it's true. It takes all of us. So I'm really happy that you shared that. And I have a few fun questions that we're going to end on. So I just want to acknowledge Bubby, your amazing husband, Emily, your wonderful grandfather of blessed memory, who unfortunately I never got to meet, but feel like I know him through both of you. And he sounds like a talented, wonderful chazan, that Bubby, your granddaughter, Alyssa, has carried on his legacy as she is to chazan, a cantor, today. And I had the honor of meeting her. And I just want to know, is there a nigun or a song or anything from his cantorate that you take into your lives today or keep alive in your family?
There's so many of them. And when he was about 11 or so, it was already, things were not going well already for the Jews in Europe. And the rabbi, he was from the Bolshevik Hasidim. Bolshevik Hasidim is a sect of Jewish people from that area, followed that particular rabbi. And the Hasidim, the followers, on Shabbat, after the service was over, a shrine from Reb, a crumb of bread, or if a rabbi gives you a piece of lekach, haneke kaseh, lekach tov natati lahem, good portion I gave unto you. So he put him up on the table. He used to sing in the choir. And he said, Davidl, sing something. And he sang, Eli, there's Eli, Eli from Kana Senesh, but there's a religious song, Eli, Eli. And in Jewish it goes, Lieber Gott, dear God, accept my Torah and my prayer to you and my tears. Nimm nicht weg von mir mein Glauben. Don't take away my belief for me, von Menschlichkeit, to be kind, to be humble. Was ist der die bittere room that I see the bitterness around me? Take away those things from me. Ich soll nicht schulden, ich soll nicht menschen. I shouldn't curse, but I should only bless. And he gave him a piece of honey cake. And he says, Davidl, du wirst leben, a lange jong. And he said to him, David, you're going to live a long life. And he lived to 62 and a half. 82 and a half. Because we were blessed to be married 62 and a half beautiful years. He was very, very special. Very loved, very kind, very giving. He went through all the concentration camps and he wound up in Buchenwald. He was liberated in Buchenwald by General Eisenhower's brigade. And he chose life. Out of 200 members of the family, only 3 survived. His father, Laba Shalom, an aunt in Israel, and my late husband. And so he gave so much to the community. When he passed away, there were 700 people at his funeral. All the Christian churches, all the surrounding, anybody ever came for help, he never refused. When somebody would come to him, I lost my wallet, either they drank or I lost my wallet, I don't have the money, I need a night to I'll send you the money tomorrow. He had a cantorial discretionary fund. Somebody give him a donation. So there was a motel close by and a donut shop. He had a deal with the motel, $25 a night to sleep, and the donut place would provide him with donuts and coffee. And sometimes people would come. He said, we went across from the church and they said, for Presbyterian, I think. And they said, well, unless you remember, we couldn't help you. And my husband says, we're all God's children. We help one another. That's the kind of person he was.
So when I think of my Zeta, he sang all the time. He told jokes all the time. He was always just sort of like buzzing. He was this person who was always like sharing. But the song 100% that I think of when I think of him is Avinu Malkeinu. We would come down, I grew up in Northern California, about 5 hours from where my grandparents lived.
Or they sang Hineni.
And we would come
Yom Kippur Hineni, walking from the bed.
from the back.
The walls, he had the gorgeous, gorgeous tenor.
Just gorgeous tenor. And I remember just being in the, being in the temple, being in Beth Shalom with Bubby and Zadie and our family, and sitting in the front where we would always sit. And he would come in and you could hear his voice, and it would pierce through, and he would come up on the bima, and then he would have his sort of a Avinu Malkeinu moment. And it's still one of my favorite parts of the
Malkeinu.
And now the only one who can even come close, and it's not close, it's not Zeta, but what I claim my kids every single year before the Chagim? Barbara Streisand's Avinu Malkeinu. It's the best I can get without him here. They love it, and we sing Avinu Malkeinu, and we sing at the top of our lamas, and that's how we begin to welcome in the Hagim. I know there are, to be able to sit in a congregation where a Chazan really does bring you closer to God is a gift, and the fact that it was my grandfather doing it was even more so, and it was an incredible thing to be a part of for so many years.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you both for sharing that. What an incredible gift, an incredible legacy for sure. Okay, I know I said we were going to end on a fun note. I know, but that was a little emotional. Emily, do you have a favorite recipe that Bubby handed down to you?
So Bubby loves to cook, and we grew up eating so many delicious, uber Ashkenazi things that Bubby would make. I'm going to go with challah because it's so simple, but it is so perfect. And if we were together on Friday night, no matter what, there was challah on the Shabbat table and a beautiful meal. And for my kids too, no matter what's going on in the week, on Friday night, there is fresh challah on the Shabbat table. And so often I'll send pictures of my challah to Bubby, and she'll send pictures to me, and just the braiding and feeling my hands do the same thing that she did, and her mother did, and her mother's mother did, and that God willing, my children will do. It's the best. And it's one of the most beautiful, smartest things that I think your tradition did was bring us challah.
Bubby, does your particular challah have an origin story?
That's the kind of challah my mom, Aleha Shalom, used to make, and I make the same challah. Except my mother didn't make the challah braided like we have it here. She made it big fat in the middle and little thin on the sides, rolling like the Torah handles. And then she'd make like a braid, a big long one, not a braid, just roll with the fingers and put it on top. And it was a beautiful challah. One day I'll have to make it and show you a picture, the kind of challah my mom and my Bubby used to make.
We'll do it this Friday.
But yes, it wasn't the braided. We didn't have the braided challah like here. No, it was different shape.
Is there a special, do you put something special in it? And of course, aside from love.
Generations of practice and lots of love. And when we take the challah, little piece, you see the blessing for the Kohen. We always think of those that used to bake challah and take the piece for the Kohen, and how grateful we were to be able to have the means to be able to provide for challah for Shabbat, and to leave a piece for the Kohen, a symbolical piece for the Kohen. And the aroma from the challah permeated through the whole house. And there was, even though you didn't know it's Erev Shabbat, when you smelled the house, you knew the chicken soup, the gefilte fish, the chopped liver, the whole spiel. And that's how I raised my children. And when her father, my son, would call up from UCLA, Mom, can I bring a couple of friends from UCLA? I said, sure. I'd have like a 17-pound brisket, like enough for a horse. They'd polish it up. They would, besides chicken soup and besides challah and besides everything else, because they were not at home. They were far from home. So have a Shabbat meal. It was very special. And my daughters do the same thing. So it was very special Shabbat. But you forgot to tell them, when I used to come to San Jose, what did Bubby teach you how to make?
But Okay, so I know we're a little girl. Okay, we'll retell. We'll answer the question. We're a little. When I was a little girl. Okay, take two. So the answer that Bubby wants me to share,
Go ahead.
is I was born on Purim. My Hebrew name is Esther. And when I was late, and Bubby and Zadie were waiting for the call, and they got sick of waiting for the call because I was taking so long to come. And Bubby puts hamantaschen,
About 100 hamantaschen
in the
suitcase.
so she just made them, and she's like, "Oh, we'll put them in the suitcase. We'll probably go in the next few days." And then a few hours later, you got the call,
And we made the rest in peace before your parents who lived in San Jose. Her grandparents who lived in San Jose, we got there before they got there.
So the LA people got there before the San Jose people because they were like on, the wings of Hashem, and they got there really fast. And
The doctor and the nurse.
and she brought hamantaschen for everybody, and everybody was starving, and they all ate hamantaschen the evening I was born. And so for my whole life, truly my whole life, every single Purim, whether either we make them together, or if I'm somewhere really far in the world, I make them and she makes them, but we, do a l'chaim on the phone, and that's our hamantaschen story. It is really special.
So I have to ask you, Bubby, do your hamantaschen have a special meaning? Like, is there an origin story for where the recipe came from?
It's from my great Bubby, from my generations. I had nothing written down. I have no recipes written down. It's in my little CD, I guess.
Should we tell them the secret?
Go.
I make mine with butter. We don't do. I don't like the part hamantaschen. I don't know. So my recipe's a little different. They're delicious.
Bubby, you don't make yours with. Do you make yours with butter?
I make nothing with that.
No.
I make everything parva.
Everything should be parva.
Yeah.
Because you never know if you're fleshik, but how could you with the hamantaschen? But I plan it.
I only make parva.
But I think that is so cool to actually have a recipe. I think it's so cool to have a recipe that you can look like. My grandparents, I used to always be fascinated. I have a friend who's related to one of those like Vanderbilt Rockefeller families, and he went on a family tour of his house, that's been in his family since the 1800s for generations. And I was like fascinated. And he was like, "Why are you so fascinated by this?" I said, "Because I have nothing. The only thing I don't have an ancestral home that I can go to aside from Israel, but like I don't have like my family's home from the 1800s that I can go back and visit. It was all lost in the Holocaust. The one thing I feel like that we have, of course, it's our recipes. Aside from the religion and the songs, which is why I asked you about, family, your grandfather, Bubby, your beloved, husband of blessed memory. That's why I asked about the niguns and the songs, the recipes, our culture has been handed down for generation after generation.
In our family, different than his.
And how cool is that you can say this hamantaschen recipe was handed down? How many generations can you go back from that recipe?
I remember my great grandbobby that I never met her, but from her to my Bobby, to my mother, and so on.
And now Emily, I'm sure you make them with Liba, right? And with Judah.
And my other great granddaughters. Also, I was there one that just called me. I was babysitting them a couple of days ago. We're making strudel. Her son, Bobby, you bring strudel. Judah de Moishe.
Yes, Judah said
strudel.
He really enunciates the stru and strudel.
Love it. And has Dad gotten in on it too? Has he started baking with you guys yet?
So he's a presser, so he'll eat whatever we give him.
But today he was kissing me. I was telling him in Yiddish, and he loves when I speak Russian to them.
Yeah, it's a multilingual baby. He's very lucky.
Great.
Oh,
thank you. What a
One is that I survived to be able to do those things, to be able to transmit the story of hell and survival and rebirth and living the American dream. It's always much better to be giving than God to be taking. And I had to take to survive another day. So thank God now I'm blessed. I'm able to give.
Amen. And you're meant to be here and pass all of the stories and the legacy to your amazing great-grandchildren.
Thank you.
Who are truly incredible.
Yes, I'm proud of all of them.
They are amazing. Thank you, Bubby.
Thank you for listening to If You Heard What I Heard. If you'd like to learn more about our work and support our mission to make sure the world never forgets, please visit our website, ifyouheardwhatiheard.com. We will never let these stories be lost. It is the job of our generation to make sure future generations never forget so that it never happens again.